Robert Plank Show, episode 358 Sales Training for Modern Salespeople. Increase your prices, conversions, and profits with hardcore closer Ryan Stewman. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Ryan Stewman, and he's the hardcore closer, and he's also the founder of the Break Free Academy. And it doesn't matter if you're selling cars, homes, financial services, or consulting, Ryan's sales mastery can help you generate higher quality leads, increase your closing ratios, and show you how to charge premium fees for the items you sell. I think we all want to do that. So, Mr. Ryan, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, I'm excited to be here, Robert. I appreciate you having me on here and letting me entertain your audience. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, because yeah, what's the point of like learning some stuff if you're not, if it's not fun, if you don't love what you do, if you're not entertained. So I am for all that stuff. So we heard a little bit about what you're all about, but can you kind of tell us in your own words what is it that you do and what makes you stand out and special?
Well, I do a lot of stuff, just being honest, and I'm most known for my sales training, but I actually do a lot of stuff. I own 6 companies, and I built my whole business around sales. I've never had a salary job my entire life. I've never taken a paid vacation, never taken a paid day off, never called in and had a sick day that I got paid for. Like none of that stuff has ever happened to me ever. And and because of that, I've always just relied on my sales ability my entire life. Since I was 13 years old, I started selling car washes for my stepdad. And in 2010, I decided to start teaching other people how to make sales in the ways that I have made it, and then that's evolved obviously into internet marketing because um, I saw a need out there in the marketplace where there was a lot of sales trainers that wore suits and ties and looked like your favorite Sunday school person, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's definitely not me, and definitely not most of the salespeople that I had met over the years either. And so I just realized that there was a large, we'll call it unchurched segment of the sales force that really didn't have anybody that could relate to them as a mentor or somebody trying to train them or whatever. And really, like just between me and you, Robert, like sales training is just a tiny, maybe 10% of what I do, but it's sexy, and so that's how we lure you in. But really, we're helping people build and scale businesses, and sales being not just like handling objections and stuff, but creating sales funnels and follow up emails and all the stuff that it really takes these days to run a business. I remember there was a time where in order to run a business, you had to have like a brick and mortar set up, and you had to have electricity to it and water to it and cable to it and phone lines set up and all that other stuff. And now an online business is the same way. You set up an online website, and then you've got to have a commerce, a shopping cart. You've got to have a funnel and follow up emails and all the things that go along with it as well. And that's what we teach is the modern way of doing sales.
Awesome, and I can definitely relate to a lot of that in that like that traditional, like you said, that brick and mortar business, it looks a certain way, and like if you were to ever buy like I don't know like an office or a laundromat or something or some kind of like building, you'd say, oh well, of course there's a physical building, there's certain things I have to do, but then on the internet it seems like a lot of people just want to kind of dabble around or just want to have a skill or be a blogger or something, and I definitely went through a phase like that where I thought, oh well, I'm just gonna put some stuff out there, and it'll sort of come to me and it'll work out. And I know that I felt like I was working way too hard for not a lot of money, and then once I finally told myself that okay, like I can't keep going on this path, I have to learn about copywriting and sales, and I have to build a list, and I have to run webinars, then things really took off. But I mean, do you see a lot of that where people like they don't really make that connection of like there's internet stuff, but they don't really realize that they're running a business?
Well, let's think of like the small business owner that has a mobile notary thing, right? Where title companies hire them and they go off and they sign documents. They may have a website, but that's it. And then the website may only just have their phone number on it. It may not explain exactly what they do, their prices, and have a sales pitch for people to pay their prices and pre-register. And there was a time 30 years ago when you could just throw a website up and make money. That was called the dot com. But there was 3 words. It was dot com bubble. We have passed that, and technology is serious. Some of the most, the companies worth the most money on the planet right now are technology cloud based companies: Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and those are companies that are worth half a billion. I'm sorry, half a trillion or more, and they're all cloud-based companies. And so people have to start taking tech seriously. You have to think, okay, you have a building here, and this has foot traffic, and you run advertisements to the building and everything else. But then you also have internet traffic, which never stops. Foot traffic's from 9 to 5, right? Internet traffic's 12 to 12, bell to bell.
Okay, so you mentioned in there that like a lot of these businesses they need things like a sales pitch or they need a way for someone to opt in or pre-register for things. Are you seeing like the average sort of company out there, like are they do they have like only a handful of these things set up, or is there like a common need or like a common all these things that are like missing in their business?
Yeah, I won't even say the average company. I would say that the way above average company has this stuff dialed in, whereas the average company, even a Fortune 500 company, oftentimes doesn't. And I'll give you a good example. Let's say you go to the grocery store today and you pick up People magazine, and it's on the stand right there because you're bored and you just pick it up. And you look in there, and there's an advertisement for, let's say some fancy Armani cologne, and it has a picture of some dude who looks nothing like me and you. He's completely ripped and handsome, and looks like he's never had a day of hard work in his entire life. And his shirt's halfway ripped off, and his jeans are extra skinny. And he's got some chick that most guys will never get a shot with in their entire life standing up next to him, smelling his chest in a way that your wife or your girlfriend never does to you anyway. And it looks all fancy, and it says Armani, the smell of man. And then there's a flap that you unfold that allows you to smell it. And that's as far as it goes. There's not a here's a coupon for 25% off of Armani. Just mail it in and we'll send you the sample so that you get their email address and phone number. There's not a website to go to where you can find out about what oils and what potions and smells and shit they use inside the fragrance. It's just this ad. And that's how most businesses think of their website. It's just like, just put our name on something with a provocative picture or something that'll get people's attention. But you have to have a call to action. That's all the difference. And then you have to, whatever that call to action is, you have to have follow up, because most people don't buy on the first impulse. They usually want to, but there's usually something that comes up that keeps them from putting their credit card in. Oftentimes it's convenience. And it usually takes follow up several times before they buy from you. So putting an ad in that same People magazine for the same cologne, but with a website that says, go to this website, and it'd be armani.com/25 and get 25% off when you buy 2 bottles and then get our bonus gift, right? Like that's the way it should work, but that's not how it works. But just like the average company like Armani doesn't understand how to advertise in a magazine, most of them don't understand how to advertise and capture information on the internet. But I think it's pertinent to business. If you're not capturing names, email addresses, and phone numbers of people that are visiting your site that are showing interest in what you're doing, I mean, then what the hell's the point of having it? A lead's not a lead unless you've got their information to be able to contact them.
Right, I agree. So what I'm sort of hearing from you is that there are all these like huge companies out there, huge brands, they have huge budgets, but they're missing the boat. And if someone out there, if we're a a mom and pop, or we have an app, or we're new, or we have a small budget, we can do very well because we can sort of fill in the gaps that these other big huge brands are missing.
Yep, yep. And you know, a lot of people aren't using them, so you get an opportunity, to use them. We're still in that boom where a lot of people don't figure it out. I have people paying me $30,000 a year, and they show up and they're like, "Dude, I just don't get anything about technology. This is so confusing to me." And luckily, they've invested with me to help them. But there's tons of those people out there who refuse to invest, who refuse to learn. And then I honestly think the robots are going to replace them. Right? We're going to have artificial intelligence and everything else out there. And one of my clients reached out to me this morning. He's like, dude, this article about robots is scary, man. Elon Musk is saying within 30 years they're going to replace all of us. And I'm like, bro, they're not going to replace us. We're just going to sell the robots.
There you go.
you know, but most people aren't thinking about that. And but when it's too late, when I've sold half of America a robot here in 20 years, and they've got this, the robot to me is not like Small Wonder or Short Circuit. The robot to me is like the website that when people go to, it automatically pixels them and then sends them retargeting ads and then sends them emails and then sends them coupons with call to action and then robo dials them and then sends them pieces of mail in their mailbox. Like the site that does all that without a sales team and everything else to me is a robot. And that's what I'm trying to sell to people, because I think in a few years, if you don't have all that set up, you're going to be squashed by the people who do, because we know that technology moves fast. Moore's law says every year technology doubles in size. So what was 128 in RAM becomes what is it? 128 in RAM becomes 240,
256.
256 in RAM the next year, and then 512, and so on and so forth. And it's only a matter of time before there's a tipping point where you're at 10,000 gigs of RAM becomes 20, right? Everything that we've ever had since the beginning of time has all of a sudden doubled in a year. And the same thing's happening. And there's going to be a point where it doubles so fast that most of the people that own businesses and most of the people that weren't paying attention are going to get left behind.
Right, I agree. Like at this point, the phone in your pocket is more powerful than the desktop computer you had 10 years ago. So once that becomes more powerful than the human brain and it can do all this sort of thinking, then what? And what I'm hearing from you is that, well, those sort of tried and true, sort of classic advertising components, they'll be updated, but they'll still be there. The ad, the call to action, the lead capture, the follow up. And so, I mean, you mentioned in there that you have people who just don't get it, who are either just ignorant or looking too far ahead in the future. But you have people who do get it, who do pay you money, who you do help. So I'm sure you have some kind of interesting stories like that of some company who came to you and said, Mr. Hardcore Closer, I need your secret sauce. I need you to work your magic. And then I'm sure that you worked your magic and kind of had some big results. So any fun stories like that to share today?
Yeah, I write. I have a group called Break Free Academy Entourage, and every month, as part of the membership, we send out a newsletter. And I was just writing every month I highlight one of my clients as the closer of the month, is what we call it. And this month is a guy named Johnny Fowler, and I like literally right before you and I got on this interview, I just finished typing this up, telling his story. But there was a guy named Chad Prio that lived in Houston, Texas. He finds me, comes to one of my live seminars, and goes back to his office. And 2 months later, becomes the top producer. Goes from making about $4,000 a month to about 40, and and he's in the mortgage business. So his boss is a gentleman named Johnny Fowler, who is the closer of the month for August in the publication I was talking about. Well, Johnny, obviously, Chad's 10 times his business, more than 10 times his business, and that's caught the attention of the CEO and the CFO of the company. And so they call me up and say, hey, we want to go through what Chad went through. And I said, well, the next one's not 3 months. It's not until 3 months from now. And they said, well, we'll just pay whatever the hell the whole entire class full of people were, and it'll just be the three of us then. And I'm like,
Awesome.
okay, all right. How bad do you want it? That's what I'm talking about. And so obviously they come and we scheduled time for like 2 weeks, and 2 weeks out, and they came in and spent 2 days with them. And I'm when I'm on people's podcasts like this, I try not to cuss too much, right? But I'm a good old Southern boy. I drop a lot of F bombs and everything else. But out of respect for podcast hosts like yourself, unless they say it's totally cool, I just try not to cuss. And these guys are about as straight laced as possible. But when you're in my own house, I get really comfortable and I just tell it like it is. And plus, I'd already got their money, so that helps. And so these guys were about as straight laced as they come, and they listened to me drop a million F bombs over 2 days and everything else. And we had a great time. They didn't want to go out, they didn't want to hang out. They were all about business. Well, they took off, and Johnny, what they didn't realize was that I had this plan for 3 years before this company showed up. Like, I had been prepared for this day, that one day there was going to be a mortgage company, because that's the niche I started in, that one day there was going to be a mortgage company that took me up on my offer that we called the permission for position. And so these guys did it. They went and implemented it. And that was 2.5 years ago. Today, they're putting out over $500 million in production. They've got branches in every state, in every market, and they're using this technology that I've used, these sales funnels, these email follow-ups, this round robin distribution, and then even more stuff that they've created on their own. And they have scaled this thing literally across the nation into $500 million, probably more than that at this point, a year in mortgage production, just using my system. And I've been doing this for 7 years, so they're like the only corporate story that I really have, because most of my stuff is for the people that either own their own business, which may be a small business like what you and I have, that I've got 9 employees, or it might be a huge business like this, or it might be someone who is like a real estate agent who technically owns their own business because they're 1099, but really they conform within a semi-corporate structure and stuff like that. But this was like the first company to ever really step in and say, you know what, we'll do this for our whole company and see how it works. And really, they're one of my greatest, because of Johnny and taking action and implementing all this stuff. They're probably one of my greatest examples out there, as far as people that have just taken what I've taught them and really went to the bank and went all in on it and said, this is for us, we're doing it.
Well, that's an
I had a
awesome.
client call me earlier. Just a side note, I had a client call me earlier about 2 hours ago, and he's like, "Man, you know what? I've spent $400 and all I've got is 36 leads. Man, do you think something's wrong?" And I'm like, "Dude, $400 for 36 leads? That's like $10.14 a lead. Dude, that is killing it. It's like turn it up, spend 800. You know." So it's just funny how things can change for people really quick with technology.
So when you look at some of these businesses, I mean, what's your thought process? Do you say like, let me see your whole sales process, or like, where do your leads come in, or do you throw it all out and start over? Like, how do you kind of think these things through?
Well, first I like to look. That's a good question, man. At first, I like to look at the solution the customer is looking for. So if we're going to sell somebody something, I know, like, we'll just stick, because I've used mortgages throughout this theme, but throughout this episode. But like for mortgages, I know that nobody wants a mortgage. Robert, you don't want a mortgage. I don't want a mortgage. Like, we don't want to deal with the bank. We don't want to give them all the paperwork. We don't want to have the pain of digging through tax returns and finding out how much we do or don't make according to bank math, and all the stuff that is frustrating about getting a mortgage. But what we want is a house, right? Like, that's the reason why you endure the pain of having a 30-year mortgage, is so that you can have a house. And so what I always do is I focus, okay, so they want a house. What would be the reason somebody would want a house? They're getting a raise at work. They got a demotion at work. They lost their job. They got a new job. They're relocating. They're getting divorced. They're having kids. They're losing kids. They're retiring. They're just getting started. They're first time home buyer. There's only a finite amount of reasons why people would want to put all their stuff in a box and move to another location. And so what I try to do is, when I position my sales funnels and advertisements and everything else, is I look and I say, okay, you sell mortgages, but what they want is a house. And then the reasons they would want a house is one of these reasons. So let's run an ad saying, if this is the reason that you want a house, we can make that happen for you. And, as simple as that sounds, that's what it takes. A lot of people that are, especially smart people, listen to podcasts like this. We overcomplicate shit, right? Like, we think that it has to be smart in order to work. But meanwhile, the masses are stupid. Listen to the music that's out there. Look at the commercials that are out there. Like, the masses amount of people are on sleep and on Prozac, and they just just bouncing through life. And it needs to be simple in order for them to make a decision, because if you compound it and you make it too complex, then they'll be confused and they won't make a decision. But us smart people, we need compound complex stuff in order for us to make a decision, because we're smart, but then we don't realize that most people aren't that way. So we try to sell to them how we are, and it confuses them, and then we can't figure out why we can't close sales. And so, like, the simplicity of what I just shared with you, sometimes people are like, it's too easy to work for my people. And it's not. You know what? The thing is, I've never heard it not too easy to work, but I have heard it too complicated to work.
Awesome. That's really good advice, and I can definitely relate to that because I'm kind of a computer programming geek, and I definitely see a lot of people, and I think that we all are guilty of this at one point or another, of like being too close to the business and overusing the jargon and assuming that everyone knows what we know. And just that, what you said right there is, don't think about what the thing is, think about what they will get out of it, or think about the reason that caused them to want to have this crazy thing like a mortgage. I mean, that's, like you said, as simple as that is, that sounds like that's just a really important lesson and a really important reminder for a lot of us to kind of keep in mind. And so you've dealt with, like you said, like some of these different small businesses and mortgage companies and things like that. And I'm sure that as you've done this kind of one-on-one consulting, you've had like a really good suggestion or given them a plan, and they like really resisted it, and just like, have you had things like that where you said, here's what I want you to do, and they were just super just closed-minded, not wanting to do it? Any stories like that?
One of the things that uh, people are generally closed-minded to is being salesy. And now, what I mean being salesy is, like, a lot of people like to send out emails that say, and we'll just stick to mortgages again for simplicity's sake. And they'll send out an email that's like, spring cleaning tips, or interest rates have lowered. I don't give a shit if interest rates have lowered or not, unless I'm right in the middle of buying my house. I do not care, right? Like a year from now, interest rates low. I don't care. And so they'll send out these like informative emails that maybe people do care, but there's still nothing for them to do. And what I try to do is try to get them to end every email, every message with a sales pitch. And oftentimes they're like, I don't want to seem too pushy. But I'm like, that's what we got. We've got to give them a call to action in the event that they do want to do something. Maybe they read this, they love it, and they want to do something with you, but you didn't give them any chance to do something with you. And a lot of people give me resistance on that and making videos, because I think videos are the number one way to influence people. But I have a lady who's up in Kansas, and she's very pretty. She's a blonde lady. She's a loan officer and a great personality, totally cool chick. And for a year, I've been telling her to make videos. No, no, nobody want to see me on video, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, you're good looking, so you're going to get a lot of people just to click on it because you got blonde hair anyway. And number two is like, you got the personality, so just get on the camera, act like the camera's not there, and be yourself. Well, she made her first couple of videos and they got like 5,000 views each. Like people were like, oh, I'm so happy that you said, like, this is such good information. She's now going on to make 58 videos and has a whole entire campaign for the next 58 weeks to launch a video a week that are already pre-made and prefabricated. So, and good for her is, she's in the prime of her looks and everything because she's right about that age. And so, like, she gets to use these videos for forever, the good looking version of herself in the videos, instead of waiting till we're 60 and we're not as good looking anymore because the oxidation on our skin and just time and everything else. And then you start making videos. So there's lots of benefits of that. But I would say those two things, either, trying to be like, not as salesy as a sense of like douchey or anything like that, but trying to sell is something I get a lot of resistance to, because people think, oh, I don't want to run my clients off. Like, they're not clients unless they buy from you. And then number two is the video thing for sure.
And that's super cool. And what I'm also hearing in those sorts of stories is like, well, first of all, if you don't ask, you don't get. And a lot of people just, it seems like they have these preconceived notions already made up in their mind that, well, I can't be salesy, but it's like you haven't even tried to do. You haven't even tried to do a call to action. And I've seen people do a lot of that sort of shooting themselves in the foot kind of stuff where, they don't want to email on a regular basis, or they want to, send a big long newsletter and not really have any links or anything to buy, or they want to say, oh, well, if you want to get less emails from me, click this link, and like adding in more work just to market less aggressively. So what I'm hearing from that is kind of market more aggressively and then give it a shot and then kind of see what the results are. And then if you're hesitant about it at first, we'll just go ahead and try it anyway. Try it the hardcore closer way, not the old way that has been giving you the same results all this time. And if you try it this new way and you get those results, then you can say, well, hey, taking that risk paid off, and then I'll keep on going down that path, because if it worked a little bit, then I can kind of continue and repeat that over and over. So I mean, lots of light bulbs going off, and in, like you said, a lot of these just like really simple, but simple means like tried and true concepts that the successful people have implemented, and then the people who make it too complicated sort of talk themselves out of it. And so I don't want to keep you on this call for too long, but I do want everyone to know all about you and all your cool stuff and all your programs to join, because what would be the point of having the hardcore closer on if you didn't hardcore close us, right? So I mean, what do you have for us today as far as websites or some cool stuff we should check out?
Man, I like I've been saying the whole episode, I'm gonna make it really easy on everybody. I like to give anybody who's listening that's maybe found some value in what I'm saying, just let me give you a free book, and not an ebook either. Just let me mail you a free book. You can go to Elevator to the Top. That's elevatortothetop.com. And my book, I've sold over 50,000 copies of it so far. And I like to send you a free copy. And just go there, enter your information, tell us where to send it, and you get a free copy of the book. And there's all sorts of shit for sale inside the book and in the funnel there that you can go through, and you can see what makes us hardcore closer. But by all means, go to elevatortothetop.com and grab a free copy of my book.
Great stuff. So elevatortothetop.com. And you know what, Mr. Ryan, like you know probably better than anyone that like if someone is listening to a podcast or they're on a website, sometimes it just kind of takes like a little bit of a push to get someone to either click or pull the car over and write down elevatortothetop.com. So to kind of entice everyone to go there and be in a rush to get it and to grab it, can you kind of tell us what sorts of interesting things Elevator to the Top has for us? What kind of cool benefits?
Yeah, so Elevator to the Top is a book all about sales, and it is everything you need to know from day one to retirement. So it doesn't matter if you're making $1 million a year in sales, the book's got stuff in there. It's going to help you make 2 million. Doesn't matter if you're making $20,000 a year in sales, the book's got the stuff in there that'll help you get the six figures and beyond. And it's modern selling. It's not a bunch of, I don't talk cold calling, I don't talk door knocking, I don't do direct mail, I don't pop by people's houses and annoy people. I don't prospect people in an uncool way on Facebook. I don't spam people. I don't do anything. It's how I've built. I literally in 2008, I left federal prison with $25 to my name. And right now, according to my financial statement, I have a net worth of over $5 million. And I have everything that I have done from 2008 until last year when I finished this book. And the steps that I had taken to be able to use sales to scale all the way up is inside that book. So it doesn't matter if you're broke as shit right now or you're rich as all get out. That book has got stuff for you that you'll be able to take. And even if you're not in sales, it's got life takeaways. And even if you're not looking to take away anything on life, get the book and give it to somebody who works for you, works with you, or works with someone you know that's in sales and give them a chance for it to change their life.
Super fantastic. That seems like an awesome message and a thing that everyone needs. So, everyone listening right now, make sure you go to elevatortothetop.com, fill in your information, and claim that book. And the thing that I'm thinking about right now is that, we're all going to look back with some amount of regret, and the time is going to pass anyway. So, why not be able to say that you did your best and you put everything into it, you left it all out in the field, whatever the analogy is that they say. Why not make your business the best that you can be, so that way you can give yourself and your family and everyone around you the best life possible by growing your business as much as it needs to grow. So make sure you go to elevatortothetop.com. And I want to thank you, Mr. Ryan Stewman, hardcore closer, for stopping by and sharing all this cool wisdom with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Robert. I really do.
Want to listen to more fantastic episodes of The Robert Plank Show? Subscribe to us at robertplank.com/iTunes and browse past episodes at robertplank.com.